What's up, guys? It's Sane and Senpai here with another video. So let's talk about LeetCode. If you think grinding LeetCode for 6 months is going to get you a software engineering job, you're probably just wasting your time. And I know because I did it. So, the belief that everyone has, right? Everyone tells you the same thing. Just grind LeetCode, do 200 problems, and you'll get hired. So you kind of sit there solving problems every day, right? Arrays, trees, dynamic programming, list, hash maps, those things, right? Um, and yeah, you get better at LeetCode for sure, but then you go apply for jobs and nothing happens, right? So, um, here's kind of like the harsh truth, right? The truth that nobody wants to say. LeetCode is not what gets you hired. It gets you um, able to pass an interview after you already get that interview, right? So, like, that's a big thing. That's kind of where the bottleneck is, right? What actually gets you interviews, let's talk about that. So companies don't interview you because you solve 300 problems in your bedroom. Basically, it's kind of what I'm trying to say. They interview you because they think to themselves, this person might actually be able to do this job, right? That's kind of what you're trying to prove. So let's break this down into 3 points, right? Number one is real projects. So what I mean by that is like not to do apps, not calculator apps. I'm talking about APIs, authentication, databases, something that actually kind of looks like a production code, and that you can handle production code, right? So, something that may be a front end, React application that makes a call into, your middleware, business logic type of thing, your C sharp or your Java or your Python type code that handles the queries to your database, the back end side. We're talking anything like SQL related, right? Um, and having that from front to back. That's kind of what a real project is to me. And I think most people that are doing interviews. Point number two is proof that you can work like a developer, right? Can you debug problems, complex problems? Can you read someone else's code? I think is a big skill set. Can you explain your decisions, right? That matters way more than reverse in a binary tree, in my opinion. So being able to debug, I think, is like a massive thing in today's society with AI on the loose, right? And all this code. I think that's kind of the difference between a junior developer and a senior is someone that can debug and read this AI slop that's kind of being pushed out there, and being able to walk through that. So if you're a junior developer that can debug that code and literally explain, then you're good, right? And then I think the next skill set that I was talking about is reading someone else's code. A lot of today's society, like I said, is AI and how it's writing those things and saying. I think that skill set is super important now. Even just being able to read a junior developer or other person's code and being able to handle what they're doing logically so you can make your changes, right? Um, and I think another big skill set, like I said, is can you explain your decisions of that code or why you chose to go with what code, cursor or whatever gave you, right? So those decisions. So I think being able to do that is super important when you're in an interview explaining your project that you're doing. And 3.3 is positioning, right? Most people apply to jobs like this. I hope someone gives me a chance, basically, right? At this point, that's kind of what you're probably thinking because I did the same thing. That doesn't really work anymore in 2026, right? You need to look like at jobs like this is I can already do this job. So if you sit here and apply to jobs that you're like, I can already do this job, even at a beginner level in a fundamental process, that's going to help you get interviews. So, um, so where LeetCode kind of does matter, and not to be extreme about it or anything, LeetCode isn't useless. Like you should do some LeetCode, but I don't think you should do as much as people harp on it. It's not the only skill set. It's a tool, right? If you get an interview and you can't solve basic problems, you're done, right? So if you can't do these easy problems, palindrome number, longest common prefix, Roman to integer, whatever. Just your basic buzz type questions, right? Um, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? It just shows that you can't logically figure things out. Like if you logically don't understand some of these easies, mediums, and even like the hard, then you're done. You're not gonna get to the next. That's why it's a tool, right? But that's not where the bottleneck is for most people. So the real strategy, let's talk about this next section, right? Is if I had to do this again, here's exactly what I would do, right? Step one, I would spend 70% of your time building real projects, like I was talking about before, something with APIs, something with database interactions, something with authentication, I think is super important. Those kind of set you apart from these people that are just building these to-do apps or stuff like that, right? So step two is use LeetCode as support, not your main focus. 10%, 20% of your focus should go to learning this. It's not that bad. If you fully understand reversing nodes in K group front to back, that's pretty radical, but it's not what's going to get you past, right? We don't care that deep. Maybe Meta, maybe Google, but like in a general sense, most people don't care, right? That's not what's going to get you hired, right? Step three, build something you can talk about for 10 to 15 minutes straight. So that project that I keep talking about, you should be able to talk about it 10 to 15 minutes straight with no interjection from an interviewer. And if you can't, then you need to keep adding more to that project. You need to make it a little bit more complex, right? Add something super complex to it. Like don't make it all complex, but maybe one complex feature. You know what I mean? Step four, apply like you already belong there. What I mean by that is like you already belong to that company. That means tailoring your resume, like I've suggested in my past videos, to that specific role, even if you have to use ChatGPT or whatever you need to, and applying like you already belong in that situation. And, just tailoring specifically, and while you're in your interview process, get them to think that you belong there. Like they're missing out on you, basically. So, the reason most people don't get hired isn't because they grind hard enough, right? And some people grind hard enough on this. They grind a ton on applying for applications, right? It's because they're grinding the wrong way, basically, is kind of what I've been trying to say. So, if you want to actually become a software engineer, not just practicing coding problems, subscribe. I'm breaking down exactly what works and what doesn't. So, see you guys later.